see what happens here. Let's go. So this is part 2 of the Stanley Brothers.
So the Stanley Brothers have been a major contribution not only to country music, but to music in general as a whole. Major contribution. Their vocals, their harmonies are very tight. Carter would sing the lead, and Ralph would do the tenor over Carter in a very hard driving fashion. And Carter would play the guitar, and Ralph would play the banjo. And then their band usually consisted of the full string band. In the beginning, they had the whole kit and caboodle: banjo, guitar, mandolin, fiddle, and bass. For a while, there was a time when they dropped the mandolin and didn't have a mandolin player, and it was amazing how that mountain sound rang out, even without the mandolin, which is the original bluegrass instrument, as created by Bill Monroe. Ralph's style was very precise. He didn't do a whole lot of fancy licks like other banjo players have done. It was very precise, his style, and you could always recognize it. He was very he hammered on more than almost any other banjo player. He put that in his style. Just I don't want to say he overused it. He used it with such precision that it fit perfectly with the interpretation of the songs that they did. It fit. The instrumentation fit the vocals and the whole arrangements of their music. So at this point, maybe what I ought to do is do one or two Stanley songs. How about, now I can hardly do them justice because I can't harmonize with myself and put out harmony like they could. But I can come as close as I can as a one-man band here. They did this one song called Don't Go Out Tonight, Little Darling. Let me give you a little idea of what a Stanley Brothers song sounds like. The type of thing you might see on a jukebox back in the 50s. Over there in that part of the world. Now don't go out tonight, little darling. Do not leave me here alone. Stay at home with me, my darling. I'm so lonesome when you're gone. I hear a knocking at my door, and a footstep on the floor. Now they're bringing home my darling. Here he lies on the floor. Now don't go out tonight, little darling. Do not leave me here alone. Stay at home with me, my darling. I'm so lonesome when you're gone. Yes, he's dying Out Tonight, Little Darling. Well, that was one of their hits from way back. I was singing Carter's part there. Ralph's part would be harmonizing higher over that, and he does a soaring tenor on that tune where it just makes your hair stand on end.
And what years were they out doing their hits and being very popular?
Oh my gosh, it started in the late 40s with the recordings. They were 78s that ended up being reprinted on the Melodian label. They recorded primarily for Columbia. They recorded for several different labels. They did Columbia. They did of course Starday and King. That was right about the late 50s, early 60s. Columbia was earlier 50s. And they did some for way early on, Rich R. Tone, which is a little known company back then. And then after Carter died, Ralph Stanley did a lot of recording for the Rebel label and quite a few others.
Bill Monroe was in the 40s too, right?
It started in the 40s.
Yeah, so they were right on the heels of Bill Monroe.
Yes, they were. The 50s were really the heyday. The sound really embellished and perfected itself around the way it evolved in the 50s and carried on through the 60s. I would like to add that the vocals, many of the vocals of the Stanley Brothers and Ralph Stanley and the Clinch Mountain Boys were gospel songs. And the gospel songs are straight out of the hills, and the style is mountain music all the way. As traditional mountain as you can get. And the harmonies are so intricately worked out. Usually when we sing in church these days, it's unison. And it's all, just on the spur of the moment. But the way they arrange these gospel hymns is really phenomenal. I ought to do one. Let me do one that actually, gosh, there's so many. Which ones do I want to do? One of them I could just do without playing the banjo even, although they used their instruments with their version of Daniel Praed. Daniel Praed, I believe, comes out of North Carolina. But I'll do a little Daniel Praed just to give you a little of that, what's close to at least what we would call the Stanley sound.
Daniel Praed is what now?
Daniel Praed. A gospel song. Yeah. Yeah, hi Daniel. I heard about a man one day who wasted not his time away. He prayed to God every morning, noon and night. He cared not for the things of Baal, trusted one who never failed. Oh, Daniel prayed every morning, noon and night. Oh, Daniel served his living God while here upon this earth he. Oh, Daniel prayed every morning, noon and night. He cared not for the king's decree, trusted God who set him free. Oh, Daniel prayed every morning, noon and night. That's a little bit of Daniel Praed. There's more verses than that. I'll tell you this, when I go on a Stanley kick, maybe once every few years, I'll go on a Stanley kick. You know what a Stanley kick is? It's when all I listen to for a month is Stanley Brothers and Ralph Stanley.
Did they ever record or perform with Bill Monroe?
Let me think. Yes, Carter did a. Oh my goodness! I'm glad you asked that. Carter Stanley recorded a song back in, I think, the very late 50s, maybe early 60s. Late 50s, early 60s was pretty close together there, and a lot of the same sound. Carter did a song with Bill Monroe called "You're Drifting Away." I don't know if I could give you a sample of that. It's a gospel. You're drifting away, you're drifting away. Don't wait too long to let Jesus hear you pray. The arrangement is so meticulous with Bill and Carter doing that song together.
Wow, do you have that record when you listen to the Stanley Brothers?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
It's there. It's amongst the collection. My son, when he was living with me, got exposed to quite a bit of bluegrass, and he grew up more with hip hop stuff and more of the modern stuff. But after a while, he got to where he made a comment to me one morning, and some of this he was hearing in his sleep. I played some Stanley Brothers stuff, and one of the songs I remember I played, it was Carolina Mountain Home. Do you have time to do maybe a little bit of that?
Yeah, anything more you want to say? We can close out the segment with which mountain home?
Carolina Mountain Home.
Carolina, okay, say
maybe,
one more thing about it, whatever you want.
Okay, we could do that.
Carolina Mountain.
I played it on my played it on YouTube actually, on my cell phone. And Vance heard it, and he said, "Aric, your music is just starting to grow on me." And that means he's starting to get in tune to it. It's starting.
Primal sound.
It's growing. It's growing on him. Well, you get on a Stanley. You get listen to enough Stanley Brothers stuff. It will grow on you. It will. We'll carry this on the way out, and keep in mind that the Japanese have Stanley Brothers fan clubs over there in Japan.
Thank you, Aric. We'll see you next week, I hope.